It's time for City Beat, your source for all the latest news on the city of Thompson. Only on 102.9 CHTM, your radio station.
Good morning and welcome to this March 1st edition of City Beat here on 102.9 CHTM. My name is Stuart Walter and my guest this morning is Deputy Mayor Colleen Smook.
Good morning.
Let's start off by talking about City Council. One of the two most contentious issues was the first reading of a bylaw which would see council reduced in size from 8 councillors plus a mayor to 6 councillors plus a mayor. Could you explain why council is looking to reduce from 8 to 6?
It was part of the budget process. We had basically 23 different items, and this was one of the items that come up. Our council, in comparison to some of the other communities the same size as ours, they have 6 councillors, 7 maybe, where we have the 8 councillors. So this was one way that we thought maybe we could save. Now, that being said, this was the first reading of the bylaw. So what that gives open to is now we have the public hearing on March the 12th. So people can come out and express their interest if they think we should go down to 6, go to 7, stay at 8. And the reasons why or why not can all be brought up at that time.
Mayor Fenske said during the discussion and debate that the number 6 wasn't set in stone and suggested 7 was also a number that could be looked at. Now, that brought to mind, wouldn't 7 councillors plus a mayor make things interesting and present the possibility of split votes? I know right now with 9 votes, it's rarely ever gets close to being a tie vote, but there isn't that possibility. But that brings up the possibility if there is 8 people voting.
Yes, it does bring up that possibility, but then it goes, like even if somebody's missing a council and you have 8, if it's a tie vote, then it's a lost vote automatically, so we may get a few more lost votes if that was the case.
Like I said, there was a lot said by council on this topic. Could you clarify some things like where the idea came from to reduce from 8 to 6 and why it's something that council chose to go forward with as opposed to, like was said in council, the forced 10 days off for city employees?
Basically, they were 2 separate issues. They were never brought together. The 10 days off was a different one, and then this part here was one of the small things that council could do to save some money for the city, and that is where that come. But again, has to be the will of the people of the public to do that in order to do. Like I said, other communities run with 6 councillors. One thing up here is with us being so far north that if you do have somebody out of town or things going on out of town, it's usually you lose an extra day or 2 on either end. So that if you only have 6, then that could put you short or more people on the phone-ins.
And finally, could you share your thoughts on the discussion and the idea of reducing council?
But?
Could you share your thoughts on the discussion and debate that took place and on the proposed bylaw to reduce council?
Okay. Now, there was 2 different issues. There was the number of councillors to be reduced. Then there was also the bylaw that basically, Thompson has been operating that we have been 6 and we've been 8 and we've been 7 councillors. So in the Municipal Act, you can run between 4 and 10 councillors. So we had just, the one bylaw is just to clarify that that's what we will run is between 4 and 10. So because when you are running the 6 or 7 councillors, you're actually in contravention of the Municipal Act, the way we've been running. So this way, if you give the variance, we can run anywhere from 6 to 8 councillors.
The provincial budget is coming up soon. It's going to be presented by the Progressive Conservative government in Winnipeg. From the city of Thompson, it was originally to Mayor Fenske, but he's unable to attend, got an invitation to attend the presentation by the government. Why is it important for someone from the city, again, namely you this year, to be there at the budget presentation rather than to just buy a paper like a couple of council members suggested on Monday?
Well, when you're right down there, when they do release the budget, then you get a chance to talk with other municipalities about the outcomes of the budget and what impact it's going to have on our cities. Also, there is a chance to meet with the different MLAs and that, different concerns. And one of the things is being that we have the MLAs come up here, and I am one of the few that meet with them regularly, so you do know them all. They recognize you in the hall. And if we have a lot of issues up here, concerning that we have on their books. So the more often that you can sort of be in their face, the better it is for the city of Thompson, which shows that we're proactive in our work.
One of the other ones that's a very good news resolution that was passed on Monday night had to do with the CSO program. Could you explain what the bylaw is that passed, not the bylaw, sorry, the resolution that passed and why it's important?
Okay, in the past few years that we've had the CSOs, basically, like last year, the resolution, the bylaw, as of May 24th, I want to say, they could no longer operate because we didn't have the government approval. So it supposedly only was going to take a month or so we apply in April, but we ended up without bylaw officers until the end of June because it had to go through the government channels. So what this allows us is that we can keep going operating if we choose to. Now, this isn't tying us into a 5-year, saying we're having the CSOs for 5 years, but it gives us the options of negotiating and deciding what we can do during budgets that we're not having to worry about go to government every time.
And so it just makes sure they have the power to do their job.
Yes.
Moving on from council to public works, can you give us an update on snow removal?
Okay, thank you. I asked a couple weeks ago when I was here not to have any snow, and it hasn't. So we've been in the process of still clearing streets. There's a couple there that still need it. Today we're actually working on Arctic Drive, and there's some stop signs in that, 4-way stops that were sort of cluttered, and we're trying to get at them. I think the school zones are sort of priorities. With the amount of snow that's around, we're never going to likely get every corner done this year, but it's going to be a continuous work as long as there's no snow. They're going to be going down, Thompson Drive, UCN Drive is another one. And just in general, trying to get the bad areas cleaned up before. And if you notice, the MIT, the Highways Department, has been cleaning down the 70 stretch and taking snow off there also.
Now that the snow is starting to soften up and melt a bit with this beautiful weather we've had over the past few days, the roads have been getting a bit messier again. Are the plows going to be going by to clean things up along the main roads? That's
our hope. We're hoping to get the plows out on the main roads in the next couple days, and then we'll continue. Of course, on Juniper, we have a major water break, so that is going to take away. Just in case people wondering why we're not fully working on it, there is a lot of fiber optics, hydro lines underneath. There's a lot of infrastructure underground, and so we're waiting on some of the locates, and also we have to do a soft dig, so it's actually on the schedule for Monday morning, so you'll have to bear with us. They'll try keep everything open that they can, but it's not scheduled till Monday.
Moving on to events, this is kind of the calm before the storm. The Winter Games are starting on Sunday. There are 2 events, one of which is coming up here in town. The other is happening in the PAW.
Yes. Yeah, the World Day of Prayer on Saturday at the St. Lawrence, starting at 2 p.m. And the theme this year is All God's Creation. So I would encourage everybody that go out and get involved. It's always a great event to go to, and it's at the St. Lawrence Church, which is right on Cree Road, across from the radio station.
And then there are hockey provincials for the Pee Wee players that's taking place in the PAW starting tomorrow.
Yes, the Pee Wees, the King Miners open up tomorrow in Stonewall versus Stonewall in the PAW. So that should be an interesting. And also our other hockey players.
Midgets start next weekend.
Yeah.
Double A's.
Double A's? The Double A is in Cross Lake. There's
that's next
tournaments
weekend.
in next weekend,
yes.
Cross Lake. So
it was supposed to be last weekend, but there was Trappers Festival and some confusion with the league trying to schedule while there was Trappers Festival.
So that has been switched over to next weekend in the PAW also.
And then finally, Winter Games. They're finally here as of Sunday.
Yes, Winter Games rule. There's been lots of activity. All the committees this week have been, getting signage up, getting signage ready, prep work with the volunteers from what I've understood. If you haven't heard yet, please contact the volunteer office to get your slot on the thing. There's already a couple people arriving in town, parents and that, so there's going to be lots of people in the community. Please welcome them. The stores will be busy. It'll be a great week next week.
And if you have any questions you'd like answered next week, please email them in advance to CHTMnews@arcticradio.ca. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, Deputy Mayor Smook.
Thank you.
For City Beat here on 102.9 CHTM, I'm Stuart Walter.
City Beat.